Went on a mountain hike in Transylvania with a group of friends from school. And on the way up, after maybe 12 to 14 kilometers of trekking, we saw a house. It was in the middle of nowhere. It had a barn with a few animals, a couple of cows, chicken, etc. As we get closer, we see a few people. A guy and 5 to 6 women. Not sure if there were more inside. The dude comes to greet us, barely speaking the language. We had a hard time understanding what he's saying. They lived without electricity, gas, anything. This is in the early 90s, so there's no internet, mobile phones to worry about, at least for most people. Anyway, they all looked weird, kinda dumb expressions on their faces. We can barely understand each other. They asked us who's the president now and if we want some milk. They look at our clothes and shoes weirdly, curious, like who knows when is the last time they had human contact. Or maybe there were more crazies around those parts. Dunno. Not sure to this day what was going on. It's not typical in the region, so we kinda freaked out. Especially because the dude looked a bit disturbed, and we were too young. We were looking around to see if there's more of them. Paranoia was getting to us, thinking there must be a village nearby. What was also weird is that all the women kept their distance and never got close to us, like he was guarding them or checking us out if it's safe for them. One of my friends kept saying we don't want their milk and we need to go because it's getting dark. We walked calmly for a while. Then when we thought we're out of their sight, bolted like crazy out of there. Needless to say, we camped after a few hours, and we always had one person awake to keep watch. We told people that were living in the villages near that area about the mountain people, and they didn't believe us. They said nobody lives there, up in the mountains. A little over 18 years ago, I had just gotten out of the military. I drove all the way from Louisiana to my hometown in Montana without incident. I spent a few days at home and then got back on the road because my new home destination was Boise, Idaho. It was February, so instead of going straight down the length of the state, I cut across the panhandle of Idaho into Washington. The highway going straight down through the state is really twisty and very dangerous in the winter. So I crossed the state line into Washington. It was a Sunday, and it was very early in the morning. As cliche as it sounds, there was quite a bit of fog in the air. I had been driving for a while, and I really had to use the bathroom. Now, normally given how I was out in the middle of nowhere, I would normally just pull over on the side and take a whiz, but since it was so foggy and hard to see, I thought it's safer to just wait until I hit the next small town. So I drove for maybe 5 more miles, and I started seeing signs for a town. I can't remember for the life of me the name of the town, but I think it was Linden or Linder or something like that. It was on I-90 going to the Spokane Valley, so I headed towards the sign, which was a right turn off the interstate, And it's a short drive up this road and I reached the town. It was small, but I thought nothing of it since I was from a small town in Montana. Now here is where things get odd. There was not a single person to be found. There were cars and business, but not a single person to be found. No one walking the street. No logging trucks driving, everything was just as still as the air. I stopped at a gas station. It was one of those one in all places that did car repair, tires, etc. But no one was at the counter. I thought, well, maybe it's just really early. So I went around to the side to see if the bathroom was locked, and it was. As I made my way back around to the front of the building, I saw a delivery truck. It was a Coke Classic truck, except it wasn't moving. Its headlights were on, the hazard lights were on, and the passenger and driver side doors were open, just sitting there in the middle of the street. Yes, I was getting a bad vibe, so I got back in my car and went back the way I came. I got back to I-90 and thought again about just pissing on the side of the road, but honestly, I was too afraid. I continued driving until I hit Spokane. Honestly, I was more than a bit freaked out and had completely forgotten I had to piss. I didn't see anything creepy or hear anything creepy, but the stillness in the air and the complete lack of life, human or animal, was just terrifying and unsettling. I looked on the map to where I was once I got to Spokane, which was a Rand McNally's map, because GPS on phones was just not a thing yet, and I could not find it at all on the map. Even as I was writing this, I looked at Google Maps and nothing but the name Linden, Linder, or otherwise is on the map. I still to this day will never forget that feeling of just freaky displacement I felt there. When I got to Boise, I told my friend about it, and he thought I was just trying to rip off Silent Hill or Resident Evil. And honestly, I can't blame people for saying that, but at the same time, that was the reason I wouldn't piss on the side of the road. I kept recalling the part in RE1 where the hikers were killed by the murderous dogs. Not quite what you're looking for, but creepy. Not PNW either, but might fit anyway. I lived near a huge park in Canada, Algonquin Park to be precise. Basically, I was 30 minutes from the nearest small town, and 20 minutes from me is a mostly undeveloped part of Ontario. It's a massive park, so very deep forest. One night, I was sitting at home. My back door faces forest for 500 kilometers. There are no neighbors. And at around 11 p.m., I heard a blood-curdling scream. It sounded just like someone was 10 feet away from my window, screaming like they were being stabbed. No voices, just screaming and screaming. It was moving too, or at least sounded like they were getting closer to my door. It was well after dark, and my landlord, who lived upstairs, yelled down to me about it, wondering if I had any idea what was screaming. Neither of us had heard that before, and it was super loud and came from the complete darkness. There were no streetlights anywhere near the place. We took a flashlight out, looked around the property, A little, we were terrified, yelled out a few times, and heard nothing back. We did figure out what it probably was. Some wildlife scream when they're scared, or being chased, or eaten. Bunnies are our best guess. But we never found any evidence of what it was. And I would have sworn it was a young woman being attacked. It was so human sounding